Right, so along with the last batch of spoilers, at least until the world premiere and basically, the full info on the set, we have our pre-release kits and our celebration promos to look at as well. So starting off with the pre-release kits, comes with a massive assortment of cards, including a full set of 4 pieces of cold foil equipment that are usable. So, regardless of what you find in your sealed packs, you will at the very least have a full set of equipment to utilize with whichever hero you do pick. So, we can't quite read the effects on some of the cards, but we do know what Peg Leg does, so pay 3, destroy this, your next attack gets go again, and we can of course read Fish Fingers, so action, pay 1, destroy this, your next attack this turn gets +1, go again. So, we're just missing the Buccaneer's Bounty and our Blue Sea Tricorn, but generally speaking, resource, and what's usually for the discard draw, right? That feels kind of right, but I think I can sort of see resource cost, so that generally probably means just a draw effect, no discard involved. But either way, 4 pieces of cold foil equipment are lovely to see. So we do know Peg Leg is in the set, and there's enough slot for the other 3 to be as well. So these won't appear as part of our common cold foils in our treasure packs, interestingly. Aside from that, 6 double-sided basic cards, right? So Marlin, Puffin, and Gravy Bones, I would assume, or at least hope, that the adults are on the back since they've been changed to basic rarity. Then we have our Compass, our Spitfire, and our Hammerhead Harpoon, which should have the reverse of Red Spine Manta, and the Cogworks Blunderbuss at the least. For Gravy, no sign of a weapon in sight, right? So there's also something else missing in terms of the reverse side, right? One more card that we might potentially need, because we do have our gold and we have our Gold Kiss Rum. We are missing our Golden Cogs and our Goldfin Harpoon, so that sort of makes the numbers a bit awkward. Treasure Island is there with the reverse arrow, right? I don't believe Treasure Island had a reverse side, but again, it's 6 double-sided basic cards, so yeah, something's amiss there. The numbers don't quite add up, but along with that, you get 1 of 5 Rainbow Foil weapons, which are, of course, the main weapon. So our Blunderbuss, our Spitfire for Mech, our Compass for Gravy, and our Hammerhead or Red Spine Manta for Ranger. So, very, very interesting to see what exactly is hidden for Gravy Bones, if you will end up with a weapon, but we can speculate that in a little bit, right? Along with that, the celebration promos are 9 different allies for Gravy Bones. They are essentially the rares and commons from the set, right? All in Rainbow Foil Extended. So the curiosity is, are these worthwhile, right? Because to me, they get grossly overshadowed by, well, just the Marvels, right? So there are a ton of ally Marvels, so we expect a ton of ally Marvel rate, right? So equivalent to Uprising in that sense. So generally speaking, getting these is going to be a pain, right? And then again, they're just completely overshadowed by the Marvels. But still, they're a nice pickup. So 9 different options, 8 come in each pack. So each store, depending on their allocations, will get a pack of 8 of the 9, right? So there will always be, in a sense, mismatched numbers and then 1 per box. So yeah, still pretty much a pain in the ass to collect, just like the Marvels, considering you want 3 of each and yeah, 9 different ones to pick up. But if you're interested, you're interested, right? So, yeah, there's still a decent celebration promo. Again, I don't know what I would have liked to see in replace of it. It's just, again, the competing fact of, well, unfortunately, the Marvels, right? But, aside from that, currently, again, to sort of keep score, we're still at 4 Legendaries, 24 Majestics, and 19 Marvels. So we're still missing 2 Marvels, essentially half our Majestics, but the majority of them are the expansion slots. And 2 of our Legendaries, 1 being our generic, most likely, and 1 being our expansion slot, uprate, rarity, right? Majestic, Codex, probably, Lion Strike, maybe. Balance of Justice, still speculating on that, just because, again, the interaction, it's climbing, because, again, it does have a solid interaction with the set. But other than that, left to see 8 amulets, so again, highly suspect they'd be in the Majestic slot, so that puts us at 30 of the 33, so there's still 3 Majestics, which probably will end up being equipment, maybe most likely for Necromancer. But speaking of Necromancer, so Sawbones has been added to the set as a Marvel. So that means that, again, the majority of Marvels in the set are just our Necromancer allies, with 2 spare minus the 6 heroes, right? 3 young, 3 old. So basically, where my mind goes with this is that the last 2 Marvels are maybe just allies, right? That will feature in, of course, the Armory deck for Gravy Bones. So if we go off the numbers, we know where our expansion Majestics start and end, and then we know our expansion Legendary should be following that, leaving the last 3 cards with Sawbone as the very last card of the set. So if there were 2 more allies, right, in the Armory deck, I could definitely see them being slotted in here behind Sawbones, right? I find it's a little bit weird if it goes hero Sawbones or something else Sawbones. So yeah, maybe it's just 3 allies in the deck, right? More focus on it being about Necromancer cards rather than Necromancer allies, potentially, so that you have both sides of the coin, because the set itself is obviously very, very heavy with the allies. So yeah, with 2 marvels left, again, I can definitely see them being just 2 more allies, which means a heck of a lot to collect, right, for Necromancer in terms of marvels. But in terms of the weapon, right, so the curiosity here is, will he have a main hand weapon? So our Compass of Sunken Depth is an offhand Pirate Necromancer card, so it could fit into the set. There is one cheeky little slot after Dead Threads that is most likely Necromancer equipment, since it goes Dead Threads, card, Marlin, right? Otherwise, there are 2 equipment slots for Necromancer still in between Compass and the Majestics. Mech has 3, Ranger has 2. We know one of them is Patch in the Hole, the eye patch card, right? And then one other. Pirate, we know it's the 4, but they're part of the pre-release kit, so they won't feature as cold foil. We don't know about the generic, but again, we can correlate that to the treasure pack having 14 treasure pack commons. So currently that would be 3 Mech, 3 Necro, 2 Ranger, leaving 6 cards, which another way the 6 cards could work out, right? So we don't have the Rainbow Foil weapon as part of the pre-release kit. So it makes sense if it was a Rainbow Foil main hand Necromancer weapon in the Armory deck, and then a cold foil in the treasure pack, and potentially bringing back weapons to the cold foil slot in the set, right? 6 would be perfect. So we have, again, 2 for Mech, 2 for Ranger, 2 for Necro. So that brings up our total of 14 treasure pack common cold foils, right? But that doesn't leave any for the generic. So it's questionable whether or not the generic needs any equipment, because again, we get the pirate stuff and we get that straight away to utilize with our heroes. Although in that sense, drafting them becomes a little bit more awkward. But that aside, onto the actual spoiled card. So, Ranger Majestics. We have Barbed Barrage and Return Fire. Return Fire is just a straight disgusting card to me, right? So it's a 4 block. When this defends, you may banish an arrow from your hand. If you do, at the start of your turn, put it face up into your arsenal, and it gets +3 until the end of your turn. So, that is a lot of value, but it also means you're not necessarily maintaining your arsenal slot, right? Unless you have, say, New Horizon to guarantee the extra arsenal slot, right? Return Fire needs that empty arsenal slot. It doesn't grant another arsenal slot. So in that scenario, it does work really well with, say, Chain Reaction, right? Chain Reaction, Return Fire, that's a hefty amount of block into a guaranteed arrow that you can shoot with a +3, right? Potentially something else that you've done off of Chain Reaction. So yeah, very, very strong, high value card for Ranger, right? As for Barbed Barrage, well, it's more so just for our allies, right? So as an additional cost to play this, you may pay 3 if you do this attacks an additional target. So Ward 4, it covers that since it's 5 damage, or I should say 4 life, right? So anything with 5 life or less, it will do the job at an extra cost of 3. So 4 to get rid of something and still send 5 to the hero. It's decent. I kind of wish it was 2 just so it'd be that smooth cost, right? Where it's just 1 blue into Barbed Barrage, hit 2, right? But I guess they want it to be a little bit awkward in that sense. So with some pumps, it gets even better because this attacks an additional target, right? So that does mean it carries over the pumps, right? It doesn't create a new object. Still familiarizing myself with some of those terms, right? Okay. As for the rest of the Ranger cards, we have our Harpoon set, so red fin, yellow fin, blue fin, all being blue cards, so I guess they didn't want to give Ranger too many poppers, right? Although, again, these are strictly Pirate Ranger cards. So red fin Harpoon is our Go Fish mechanic, targeting a red card, yellow, targeting yellow, and blue, targeting our blue. All 2 for 4s, right? But with our Harpoon cannon, they become 6 for 8s with overpower, so that's kind of nice. Otherwise, they are just blue pitchables. So yeah, they definitely slot into Marlin quite nicely. And I guess the question is 5 Harpoons enough, right? Because it's looking like that's the cap. So you get 15 cards in total. So 1 in 4, you should get 1 every turn, which is what you want. But obviously at exactly 15, that's not always going to happen. So yeah, maybe there are still small Harpoons, or maybe again we're just meant to really lean into Marlin's personal Harpoon generation, right? Aside from that, Monkey Powder, next arrow attack this turn gets +1 and overpower. Draw a card, go again for 3 cost. So the 2 block is a bit rough, but again, in Marlin being as heavily blue as she is, right, I think this is a fine card. So gets you +1, gets you overpower, gets you a load, and again, just cycles. So yeah, I do like Monkey Powder. Fire in the Hole, your next arrow attack this turn gets +3. You may untap a bow you control, which currently just matters for Red Spine Manta and our Harpoon Cannon. Although, I don't know, Fire in the Hole means that you could activate the Harpoon Cannon twice, which would be 8 cost. So you could get there through gold and floating resources. So you could have a massive turn, right? So it'd be +4, +4, +3 onto maybe a 6 for, what, 10 and 1 card? Yeah, that might be worth chasing down shenanigans, right? But otherwise, just solid limited cards and new interactions, right? Then for our generic Majestics, we have Midas Touch. Destroy target ally, its controller creates gold tokens equal to its cost. So this plays well into everyone but Gravy, right? Since Gravy's allies by and large do have costs, there are some zeros, but there are some big boys as well. So you might touch them, you do get to destroy them, but Gravy gets himself a stockpile of gold. As for everyone else, well, generally speaking, the cost is on the reverse side, so the allies themselves have no cost, meaning that this is just a straight one to destroy any target ally, so an angel, a dragon if they come back, or even a measly sellsword, I suppose, right? 3 block as well, yellow. I think this is a fairly nice card, right? And Gravy himself might like to just off his own minions, so that he can, again, go a bit more spelunking, right? Expansion slots, Herald of Secum. Now, again, Illusionist is definitely my rough spot when it comes to game knowledge, so 2, red. I think the red is a negative, right? They want yellows. When this attacks, you may put a yellow card from your hand into your soul. If you do, deal 2 arcane damage to any target, so unlike other Heralds, it's not an on-hit go to soul, but the soul trigger is put a card from your hand, so it's a double whammy. You lose Herald, you lose your pitch, and you lose the card you want to put into your soul. So I don't know if that's worth guaranteeing the card to soul, correct? Right? Does Prism still trigger? Prism has to trigger if it's a Herald, right? But you can still get a Figment out that way. I don't know if that's necessarily necessary. But other than that, a 2 for 7 with a 2 arcane ping, I guess it's nice into big, right? But it's a huge loss of tempo against aggro. Yeah, fill me in on Herald. Then for Mech, right, we have our Cloud City Steamboats, our Perk Up, and Copper Cog. So Copper Cog really does excite me, because this is exactly what I wanted in terms of just better hyperdrivers, right? So Copper Cog puts the agency onto the cards you're playing rather than the item itself, right? It is statless, essentially. So crank, unlimited, you may have as many as you want, blue, right? And then enters with 2 steam counters, so you crank it, it'll last for 1 more turn, since it has the usual upkeep mechanic. But, generally speaking, what is a cog worth? Well, currently, +1 or go again is the majority of things, but we do have mechanics like Cloud City Steamboat, where it's you may tap a cog you control if you do put a steam counter on a cog you control. So you can use a copper cog to prolong, say, a golden cog, right? So those unique interactions with our cogs makes me really like copper cog, because again, it's that level of flexibility that makes it really, really nice, right? So you can level out, find exactly how many of them you want to take, and then, of course, feed them into all your different cards for a decent amount of value, right? Being, again, a blue, an item with go again, so it doesn't impede your turn, and yeah, just having that versatility. So getting to 3 or above cogs definitely doesn't seem hard at all, right? So the thrice per turn isn't so much a premium as it is how many of these different cards you want to go for. Do you want to spread out the cogs? There was that one that when it hits untaps all the cogs, so you can really go hard into that. Untap your cogs, then go into other things. Plus, then again, the interactions with the main weapons for Mech in this set. Aside from that, Perk Up, I don't know if I like this one too much because it doesn't feel as necessary. So Puffin's second ability is a hard trigger, right? You can only get that extra card once. So untapping to create another golden cog, I don't think is as necessary. Right, if you're starving for items, then again the scenario is either find Perk Up or an item, and I kind of would rather just find an item, but it is a nice 1+4, right? So it's how much you value that golden cog. So you have to sack a gold. So unlike the untap a gun or untap a cog, doesn't translate straight to that value, but it is potentially more stats than just a 1-for-4 with 2 block. Feels like Perk Up could have been a 3 block, right, to make it a little bit nicer. And of course, the tap mechanic so far does not interact with any other hero, right? Because again, we don't know the exact ruling, but we expect that, this is just a thing going forward, not something that's going to retroactively affect everything else. Because again, it doesn't quite synergize well with every single card in the game to roll it out in that sense. Now, Pirate Rares, we have our Murderous Rabble, right? So our Blue Ravenous Rabble, but sadly only pirate only. And there's lots of really good pirate cards I wish Melody had access to. It'd be really, really good to just translate her to gold rather than silver. But Murderous Rabble, reveal the top card of your deck. This gets +X, where X is the pitch value of that card. So obviously you want to hit a blue with this, right? It makes it a 0 blue. Go again, that can be a 3, right? That is beautiful. So yeah, Murderous Rabble to me definitely slots into, well, maybe not Mech, but definitely Gravy and Marlin, right? So it's most likely a 2, right? Or a 3, which makes it above the stat line for a blue. So it is definitely a really, really nice rare to see with some cool art as well. Really digging the art of I seize this set, but there we go. That's the last batch of cards along with the other stuff we can speculate on. So now we just have to play the waiting game till the world premiere, And then we can start diving into everything and building some hopefully competitive and crazy shenanigan stuff as well. Let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.